Hello, welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. You're joining me today for a Mum Boss at Home community check-in where my lovely ladies fill in their check-in form. They share it with me and I spend the afternoon today recording this podcast, answering their questions, celebrating their wins, and I share it with them and I share it with you. So let's crack on, shall we? So wins from the week then. Jackie had continued healthy eating. Well done, Jackie. Sarah has stuck to her food plan all week, only allowing herself one indulgent treat a day after dinner. So Sarah was really struggling. I need to cough. Sorry. She was really struggling with the all or nothing mentality where she would have a little treat, some chocolate or something, and then she would just keep going back and then hit the button, stop tracking her food, and she'd be going over her calories through those sweet treats. So well done. And I've looked at your calories as well, Sarah. You're spot on, so I'm really pleased that information and that chat that we had helped. Other Sarah, two Sarahs now. I've stayed within my calories every day apart from Saturday. We had a takeaway, went to the cinema, but I was so much more restrained than I would have been in the past. One plate of food instead of three, and I didn't continuously pick through the evening. So well done, that shows a change of behaviour. I saw this on your food log in the app, so you've made an attempt of, rather than just not even acknowledging that that's what you've done, you've taken ownership of the decision you made. I know that you took popcorn with you to the cinema, which is a great idea in terms of calories. So cinema popcorn. Why can't I talk today? Cinema popcorn is outrageous in terms of calories. So well done. And a Chinese takeaway is really hard to track. So well done. And don't worry about it. Laura had a great week off with her family. They've been away and had the best time. Well done. Sophie's win, she's in the Maldives. Enough said. Emma feels like she's really cracked down on the snacking. Well done. Claire had no weekday drinking. She ate really well. She's been completing the July Movement Challenge. In fact, I've noticed just everyone is doing really well with the July Movement Challenge. So well done if you've been taking part in that. At the moment, it's still only taking me 2 minutes of time a day. That'll go up a little bit, but it's not going to be, hours and hours of your time, and it just gets you moving. If you can spare that 5 minutes at the beginning of your day, it's a great way to start your day. Claire had some social events, but either ate at home first or took her own picnic. Well done, Claire. Steph's had good exercise this week with 3 runs and 3 weights workouts and the July Movement Challenge. Well done, Steph. Stacey did the movement challenge every day and she's eaten reasonably well, and Tish hit above 12k steps most days. Amazing. Good movement, Tish. Well done. Okay, let's go on to challenges and questions then. So I can't exercise due to an issue with my foot. I'm still waiting on a doctor's appointment. That's horrible. I'm really sorry that you're struggling with that. So if it's difficult even to just get your walking in, then focus on what you can do. Focus on your food, focus on your nutrition. If you can do the movement challenge without being on your foot, so part of our movement challenge are sit-ups, you don't need to weight bear on that, and also doing push-ups, which you can do on your knees. So see if you can do that, and then that ticks off a bit of movement every day. But yeah, focus on what you can do. I love that attitude. You'd also put later on in your form that you're going to do as much as you can, and it will likely be a focus on food for now. So I love that. You're focusing what you can rather than just writing it all off. So I couldn't do a couple of my usual planned workouts this week, which couldn't be helped, but I tried to fit in extra walks, and I thought I'd read this one out as well because that's another great example of focusing on what you can do. An analogy that I use all the time, and you might hear other people using as well, are things like, if you spilt a glass of red wine on a cream carpet, would you then throw the rest of the bottle over the cream carpet? No, you wouldn't. So it's exactly the same here. The other one I often use is, if you got a flat tyre, would you get out and pop the other 3? No, it's exactly the same here. So just because maybe you can't fit in all your workouts doesn't mean you should just sack the other ones off, which is what this person hasn't done. So well done. Great. What's next? I'm a single parent and I can't always get outside for my walk or run due to childcare. My steps are not always 10,000. I'm going to try and find a walking pad on Facebook Marketplace to make sure I hit my steps. I also struggle with sleep. I struggle to get to sleep and I struggle to stay asleep. So let's start with the walking. So I can completely understand why this is a challenge. A walking pad is a great idea if it's something that you can, if it's something that you can stretch to. So yeah, if you can find one that you doesn't cost the earth, then go for it. The other thing to think about is, what else can you do to try and get those steps in? So where can you take little breaks in your working day or during the day where you either, wander around the house or the garden, or if you're in the office, you could just, go upstairs and, use a different loo on a different floor or whatever, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And one of the examples I always use here is smokers take regular smoke breaks. And I asked this in my local slimming club the other week, who works with smokers and how often do you think that they go out and have a cigarette break? And the consensus was probably, 5-10 minutes every hour. Okay, so why? Because you don't smoke, do you not get to have the same little 5-10 minutes? So this is obviously going to depend on what everyone's job is. Obviously, if you're, a nurse or you work in retail, you're not going to be able to just hop off of the till or hop away from your patient and go, right, I'm going to go for my 5-minute walk around now. But I always just like you to think, when you're sitting in an office or you're sitting at your, I actually think that now working from home is worse than what it was before COVID, because we feel like we have to do so much more and have to prove ourselves so much more. But how can you just get in those little 5-10 minutes of walking when you don't have to worry about childcare? I had a look at your steps and they were great last week. So don't give yourself too much of a hard time. If you're not getting 10k every day, but, at the weekend, maybe you make up for it because, you're getting 12k on the weekend days, then that's okay. But yeah, finding ways around it, finding the solutions is great. Now, sleep is a huge one and it's really topical this week. Lots of my clients are struggling with sleep at the moment, and as those of you that have been around me for a long time will know, so do I struggle with sleep. There's a few tips that I've got, and maybe you could look at your sleep this week, have a little think about what's going on, and maybe in next week's check-in or in the WhatsApp group, just let us know, what is it about sleep that is a struggle, because you've put that you struggle to get to sleep and you struggle to stay asleep. So the first thing is work out the source of why you're not sleeping. So for example, there are a couple of things for me. I don't struggle to fall asleep. That tends to happen into my Kindle, but I struggle to stay asleep. And when I'm stressed and anxious, I really struggle to get back to sleep. But I had to work out what was waking me up. Now, I wear earplugs so that if there's noise outside, that doesn't wake me up. I wear an eye mask in the summer so that the light doesn't wake me up. But what I did work out is that I was sometimes waking up needing a wee between 3:30 and 4:30. So now what I do is I don't drink anything 2 hours before bed. And what that means is I'm giving myself the best chance of not needing to go to the loo if I wake up. Now, we all naturally go in and out of sleep cycles, and they're roughly 70 to 90 minutes long. So when you're coming out of a sleep cycle, you go into a much lighter sleep. And what will happen is, obviously, at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, I've been asleep for 6 hours. And even if I haven't drunk anything since 8 p.m, my bladder is going to start being more full. But when I was drinking at 9:30 at night, just before I went to bed, at 3:30, 4:30, my bladder was really full. So then that would wake me up. I'd need a wee. I'd go for a wee and I couldn't go back to sleep. So not drinking 2 hours before I go to bed has really been helping, in that I might still wake up at 3:30, 4:30, but because I'm not getting out of bed and going to the loo, I'm more likely to drop back off. Now, when I'm stressed or anxious or there's a lot going on, quite often my brain will be ticking over and I'll just start thinking about everything. So then my next couple of tips are things that might help with that. If you find that you wake up and you can't quite work out what it is that's waking you up, and then your brain just starts, here's a few things to do. So don't, look at the clock and then start stressing yourself out with how many hours it is till your alarm goes off. I always try to do something rather than just lie there. So one of the things I don't do is get up, and a lot of research recommends that you get up. Now, I don't, because Henry, the dog, will just think that's the start of our day and he will just want, to go out and do all the fun things. So I don't get up. But what I do is I will either I'll either listen to something like some sleep meditation or an audiobook. Nothing funny. I don't listen to any funny podcasts or anything. Or most often I read my Kindle, because reading my Kindle means it doesn't disturb my husband. And this happened to me on Saturday morning. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and I read, and I think it took me less than an hour. I mean, it was still an hour and I still felt knackered on Saturday, but it took me less than an hour to fall back to sleep. Same thing again on Sunday. I woke up at 5:15. I was like, absolutely not. We don't need to be up until 7 this morning. So I read my Kindle, ended up falling asleep into it, and I slept for another hour and a half. So trying to find some things that you can do rather than laying there and stressing yourself out about how many hours sleep you're now not going to get because you're awake. So don't look at your phone, don't look at your watch. Try to go to bed and get up at the same time as often as possible. Now, listen, I've just said that in the same podcast as saying that on Sunday I didn't need to get up till 7. That was a purposeful choice because I hadn't had very much sleep the night before. I think if I'd slept okay Friday night and woke up at 5:30, I might have been fine. But I try to go to bed, and I recommend, and all the research says that if you try to go to bed and get up at a similar time every day, you will regulate your sleep pattern. It's really tempting when you haven't had enough sleep to go to bed really early. And listen, there are some nights you just need to do that. There are some nights that at 8:00 you can barely keep your eyes open. You just need to go to bed. But where possible, trying to keep that same bedtime and get up time as similar as you can is the best thing to do. And then having a really good morning and evening routine, and I would say like a really good wind down routine if you struggle to get to sleep, is probably really important. So not scrolling your phone, not watching TV, not being busy right up until it's time to go to bed, but doing something relaxing, whether it's having a bath, doing your skincare, reading, journaling, just doing something that is really going to help wind you down. And have some fun with finding out what that is and what works for you. For me, it's reading. So I always read my paperback book, and then when I've had enough of reading that, I lie down, the light goes off, and I turn sideways and read my Kindle. And like I say, I fall asleep into it regularly. I very rarely get 2 pages in the evening. So having that really good morning and evening routine will really help. Now, I love that you've also put that you're going to log off from work at 5:30. Make sure you get your walk in, even if it means you drag your six-year-old out with you. So I love that you've put that boundary in for yourself. Great. But yes, let us know in the WhatsApp group if we can help you with the sleep. Okay, so I've made a few poor choices this holiday in relation to food. Too many treats. Okay, first thing to say is it's a holiday. Do not beat yourself up. Now, there is a podcast for anyone that's got a holiday coming up. I think it's podcast number either 19, I want to say either 99 or 101. I'm going to have to look now because I can't remember. But we're coming into holiday season and people are going to start freaking out about their holidays. I get it. It's episode 101. I get it. We're going on holiday. There's a couple of things to say here, right? I know I used to approach my holidays by just going mental for the 10 days or the 2 weeks that I was away. And then I would come home and I'd feel, bloated and like I needed to start again. And I don't approach my holidays like that anymore. That's not to say I calorie count and deny myself when I am on holiday. But for example, I know there's going to be wine on holiday and I like French wine. But some nights I might just have 1 glass, whereas some nights I might have 2. I love fresh croissants from the bakery when we go on holiday. Am I going to eat 2 or 3 of them every morning on holiday? No. I might have 1, but then I'll also make sure, because a croissant has no protein in it, I'll also make sure that I'm having some protein with it. So having some non-negotiables that you take on holiday. Now, for this person, they're back from their holiday now. But just for the rest of you, give episode 101 a listen if you are about to go on holiday, because that will really help you. It's not saying you need to calorie count on your holiday. You need to deny yourself. You need to not have a good time. But it's this person has said, I'm back to tracking food and eating healthily. I've missed healthy food. I often felt bloated and overfull on holiday. And I think it's that point about being overfull that I really dislike feeling now. I accept a bit of bloating because there's a bit more water retention and you're eating different food and you're moving differently. But that feeling of going out for a meal and then just thinking, oh God, I don't know what to do with myself because I'm so over full. I don't know whether I want to lay down or stand up or go for a walk, and I need to undo my trousers and I'm just uncomfortable. Like, that is not a pleasant feeling, whether I'm on holiday or whether you're on holiday or you're at home. It's not pleasant to be that full. So that's one of my aims now when I go on holiday, is not to feel like that, because I really don't like it. And then the same person has said, I think after my holiday I will not weigh or measure for a while. Is that the right idea? Yeah, absolutely. I would give yourself at least a week of getting back to all of your habits. Drink plenty of water, get plenty of steps in, plenty of protein, fruit and vegetables. Don't forget you can still enjoy carbs. And yeah, at least a week. Okay, so we already know who is in the Maldives. And when I was writing my notes for this podcast, I read this and immediately wrote into the notes, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go away. We're not friends. safe. So food wise, this is a really tough week to stick to plan. I'm being hosted for lunch and dinner every day, and people are recommending dishes or just choosing for me in some cases to try at each restaurant. So it's a balance of choosing something healthy where possible and not offending anyone. I knew it would be impossible to track calories here, but I've informed Chrissy I'll be posting photos of all my meals to try and help me make good high protein choices and fruit and veg. I've also made an effort to keep my steps up, which is hard on a small island, done the movement challenge each day and been to the gym. So again, I really want to just commend you for doing what you can. You know, you are on a work trip, you have a job to do which involves food and drink, and you have to do that job. It's part of your job. You don't want to offend anyone, but you are being really mindful of your choices, as well as, let's be honest, trying to enjoy it. Yes, you're not on holiday. This is not you've gone to the Maldives on holiday. You are at work. But you've said, and I've seen the pictures, it looks like amazing food. You're staying in an amazing location. And you've said that you're sure you won't be in a calorie deficit this week and maybe even put on a pound or two. But I've been making the best mindful-based choices while I can. And I'm enjoying some amazing food and I'm okay with this. What a great attitude. Because I'm sure you've said it somewhere. It's the first time you've been away with work, I can't find it now, for a long time. So just enjoy it. Yeah. And you've made, I've looked at the food choices and you've made the best choices that you can. Enjoy. And you've said that you're going to ensure you're straight back to plan when you return to the UK on Wednesday. Well done. Okay, next one. As always, I'm not working out at home when I can't get to the gym. So I've talked a lot this episode already about, making the best choices you can, focusing on what you can do instead of what you can do. And a bit of tough love incoming for everyone, really. We have to stop making excuses for ourselves. So you've said it yourself, you can't get to the gym, and you're choosing not to do a home workout, and for whatever reason you're telling yourself that you can't, you don't like them, they're not the same, and we're not always going to be able to get to the gym or get out for a walk, but we all have so much more choice than we tell ourselves. And I don't think you're telling yourself here that you don't have a choice in this. You're fully admitting, I'm not doing it at home, but I can't get to the gym this week either. So I think if that's the case, then you need to accept that, that's a choice you're making. And those choices, just like whether you choose to eat your protein, whether you choose to eat your fruit and veg, whether you choose to stop snacking, whether you choose to go to bed on time. And when I say you, I mean everyone. Whether you choose to go for that walk, whether you choose to have another slice of cake, whether you choose to have another glass of wine, they're all choices. There is no one in this group or listening to this who is being force-fed any of the food that they are being fed. Even Sophie, who's on a work trip to the Maldives, where it is legitimately her job to test the food, if she was full, no one would force feed her that food. So no one is forcing you to do anything. No one is forcing you to eat anything, drink anything. No one is forcing you to say yes when you could say no. Those choices are all your choices. So if you are going to choose not to do something when you have the resources available for you to do it, then you need to accept that every choice has a consequence. So choosing not to get your workouts in is going to have an impact on your results. Choosing not to go out for a walk is going to have an impact on your results. Choosing to have the extra glass of wine is going to have an impact on your results. And Like I always say, I can't make any of you do anything. But if you're constantly using the same excuses, then you need to start questioning to yourself, well, when am I going to stop making these excuses? And it's a bit like, I've posted about this on my social media recently. You can't moan about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. And that is true here. Yes, we do not work out for fat loss, but it is part of the equation, as is getting your steps. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, as is staying within your calories. So if you are choosing not to do that, if you are choosing not to take on the coaching advice that you're being given, if you're choosing not to apply the principles to your life, then you're also choosing not to get the results. And that is a choice you have to accept because you're making it. So we all have much more choice than we tell ourselves that we do. We can have busy social lives and busy work lives. It's about finding ways to fit in those non-negotiables around those lives. So if you can't get to the gym, you've got a choice. Either you do a 25-minute home workout. That's all the home workouts that I put on the app. That's what they are by the time I've yabbered on a bit in the beginning and we've done a bit of a warm up and a stretch. They're 25-minute workouts. So you can choose to do that, or you can continue to make excuses as to why you can't. Okay, if it's about I can't stick to my calories because I've got a really busy social life this week. Okay, but you could choose to make compromises on those social occasions on what you eat and drink. So finding ways of fitting those non-negotiables into our lives is really important. And I've said it before, like I can give you all of the tools, I can give you all of the resources, but you're the ones that have to take the action. So remind yourself of why all of this is important to you. Remind yourself why this is all important for your health, not just your weight loss. And it might be that on weeks like this where you can't get to the gym or work is really, really busy, that you have to accept that it's a bit of a coasting week where you won't see fat loss. Or you might have to start accepting that you're going to have to call yourself out on your excuses, because I think I've called out enough excuses on the podcast over the last couple of weeks. So at some point we have to take responsibility for our own actions. And I encourage you all to adopt the mindset of thinking about what you can do rather than what you can't. Okay, what else have we got? Sweet cravings this week, which I think is linked to tiredness, as I've not had great sleep this week and I felt physically and mentally exhausted. So there is also, with this person, they've also asked a question: with the increased amount of running I'm doing in a week, should I be aiming for higher protein? I'm still working on hitting at least 100 grams, although I don't always achieve this, but should I be aiming for more? So there's a couple of things here. So I know that there are a couple of you in the group who are increasing your running, and I really, really cannot stress enough that if you are increasing your running and you're going to be continuing to run 3 times a week, then you are going to be pushing your hunger up. I don't want to tell you not to run. I know you've got running goals, but if you remember when I was training for my half marathon, I came out of fat loss and I ate at maintenance for 5 months, because you will exhaust yourself running the distances that you're running if you are still trying to eat in a calorie deficit, and that tiredness and the wanting the sweet treats will continue. So yes, you need to be increasing your protein. Your absolute minimum is 100 grams a day, but actually you should be eating closer to 120, 130 for the amount of activity that you're doing. You also need to make sure you're not avoiding carbs, because you need those for the energy for the running. Okay, so we really need to consider what the main goal is. Okay, is the main goal running and performing in that running, in which case you're going to need to up your calories, up your protein a bit. Or if it's still fat loss, then you need to consider how much the running might be pushing up your hunger and your energy levels. Now, I know you've also said you haven't had great sleep this week. I happen to know that one of the others of you that is running with you, it has also been really tired this week. So my concern is that running is pushing up your energy need and you're not fueling yourself correctly. Now, I know you've got a half marathon booked in for November. You have got, what are we in? July, August, September, October, November. So you've got 5 months. You really don't need to start training for that. Like, most training plans are about 12 weeks. So you could continue on, 2 runs a week up until the point of maybe end of August, and then start really training for that half marathon. But I really want you to have a think about, both of you that have signed up for the half marathon, if when it comes to training for that half marathon, you'll want to consider upping your calories, because you will struggle. For the first 4 weeks of my half marathon training, I struggled to do that in a calorie deficit. So this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is exciting. Playing around with maintenance calories is fun, but really consider that. But absolutely the priority for you would be getting over 100 grams of protein in at the minute. So drop me a message and let me know about the running and stuff. Okay. Okay, next question. Is it true that the quicker you lose weight, the quicker you put it back on? A random question, but I've heard this before and I wanted to know your thoughts. This person always asks really interesting questions. Okay, so what I want you to consider is what's actually going on here if someone loses weight quite quickly, which would make sense for them to put the weight back on quickly. So it is true that the more weight you have to lose, likely the quicker you will lose it initially. And then when you start getting to a healthier weight range, that will tail off a little bit. So for those of you listening that don't have as much body fat to lose, that will be a slower process. And for some of you as well, it's likely going to become a point where it's not body fat, it's actually building more muscle that you need to do, because it's what you're looking at is that your body composition levels aren't right yet, and you need to build a bit more muscle, which will in turn make you leaner. And so I've digressed. So if a person has more weight to lose, they are likely to lose that body fat quicker. But what's most often going on here when someone loses weight quickly and then gains it back quickly is that they're most often doing it via some kind of unsustainable means. So they're either really cutting their calories, they're doing something that they like they're cutting out the foods that they really enjoy. They are doing like the skinny jab, the Ozempic jabs, which, completely stops your appetite, but then of course when you stop the jabs you get your appetite back. So they're like extreme fasting. So normally when someone loses weight really quickly, they are they're doing it via unsustainable means, which means that when they stop doing that, the weight comes back on so much more quickly, because, if they were using shakes, they go back to normal food. So shakes like half your calorie intake, so they've doubled their calorie intake. If you're cutting out 1 or 2 of your meals a day and you're fasting, you all of a sudden go back to eating the regular calories you were before. So it's often it's down to the behaviours that cause the weight loss that means the weight goes back on a lot quicker because it wasn't done in a sustainable way. I hope that makes sense, but that was a great question. Okay, few more then. Life is so busy, I'm struggling to stick to anything other than my breakfast, and then it gets to lunchtime and I just go and grab something from the supermarket. Okay, so it sounds like here you are not forward planning enough. You are just planning. There's a fly in the room, it's really annoying. You are just planning breakfast, and then the rest of it is kind of happening as a bit of a last minute, afterthought. Remember, nothing happens by accident. You should all have a reasonable idea of what you are eating in a week. Okay, you might not have it pinned down to how many calories breakfast, lunch and dinner are on Thursday, but you should all have an idea, right? I talk about planning your week every single week. And I tend to post about it every single Sunday to remind people to do it, okay? Write yourself a meal plan. You don't get meal plans from me because I don't believe in them, but write yourself a meal plan. Have 1 or 2 breakfasts that you can make ahead of time if you need to, or is a case of just grabbing something out of the cupboard. Have a couple of lunches that you can rotate. Make sure that, one of them might be, if this is your life and you live near a supermarket and going and grabbing something needs to be an option for you a couple of times a week, make sure you know what is in that supermarket that you can do that with, that is going to give you a decent lunch. Like today, I say this because not all supermarkets are created equal, right? If I went to the shop round the corner from my house and tried to do that for lunch today, I'd be sorely disappointed because firstly, they never have decent vegetables in there. I might get some cooked chicken, but that would probably be it. Like my salad options would be limited. But, today my lunch was some ready cooked chicken, and I didn't walk into a supermarket for this. I ordered this on my food shop knowing that today and tomorrow I would need a super quick lunch. So today was ready cooked chicken, half a container of pasta with spinach, pine nuts and a bit of olive oil, one of those it's almost pesto pasta, but it's not all ground up. And then I literally grabbed half a romaine lettuce and literally ripped it into my bowl, cut up a tomato, cut up some cucumber, mixed that all together, and that was my lunch. It took me less than 2 minutes. Okay, so understanding that lunch doesn't need to be fancy. Your meals don't need to be fancy. You don't need to be making Michelin star dinners, breakfast, lunches daily. You do need to plan. Okay, so thinking about lunches that are going to keep you full up, knowing that, mid-afternoon is often a bit of a snacking point for people. Make sure that you're focusing all of your meals on protein, fruit and veggies. Like I say, you can get a decent lunch from the supermarket, but it's unlikely to be a sandwich. A sandwich will not meet your protein needs because they're very clever when they put together their sandwiches. They put all the protein, all the filling in the middle of the sandwich, they cut it in half diagonally, fold it over, put it in the packaging, and you think, oh yeah, I'm getting a really full up sandwich there. You take it out and an inch around all of the crusts, there's nothing there. So it's unlikely to be a sandwich, but you can definitely get pre-prepared salads. You can then get cooked meat or fish or veggie alternatives. You can bung that in a wrap, takes you 2 minutes. Literally the protein, the salad veggies, either some mayo, some sweet chili, whatever it is you want, done. That's lunch from the supermarket. Like if you're in an office, you can buy a pack of wraps and you've got a wrap there for every day of the week. So write yourself a meal plan. It will take you 10 minutes. You've got breakfast sorted by the sounds of it. So what is lunch going to be for the rest of the week, and what are dinners going to be for the rest of the week? Write it down, get the food for it, stick to it. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to take an hour. It doesn't even need to be pre-prepped and put in a Tupperware and taken with you for lunch in the office. It can still be something you go and grab from the supermarket, but you need to make your choices different. Just like I said earlier about we all have a choice. A supermarket lunch does not have to be a sandwich. It can be a bag of salad, some cooked chicken, a wrap and some sweet chilli sauce. Bam. Write yourself a meal plan, and this goes for anyone else that is also, well, in fact, everyone should be knowing. It just makes life easier. Breakfast, lunch and dinner for the rest of the week. Write it down. Okay, next one. I'm just not losing any weight and I'm getting frustrated. I'm tracking my food. What am I doing wrong? Okay, so I've taken a look at your food tracking, and this is likely to be a tracking inaccuracy problem. Now, this is a problem that many people have. Food tracking is not a exact science. Food labels are not exact sciences. When you go out to restaurants, the numbers, the calories on the menu are not exact, because one of my clients works in a restaurant and she's like, sometimes it depends who the chef is. This chef might use a tablespoon of oil, this chef might use 3. So those calories on menus are even a bit of a guesstimate. But here's some examples that I picked out for you in your food tracking. So you've said that you've used 10 grams of butter for 2 slices of bread. So 10 grams of butter is just over one of those little butter pats when you go into a hotel or a cafe, and we all know that one of those is not enough for 2 slices of toast. So I would say that you're probably under tracking things like butter. You've also said on a couple of occasions you've used 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise. Now, the measurements of mayonnaise are, a tablespoon is actually a baking tablespoon. It is not a dessert spoon that we have in the cutlery drawer. It is smaller than that, and it is a level spoon of that. A level baking tablespoon, okay? Who ever does that apart from when they're baking? I know I only use that baking spoon when I am cooking and I need exact measurements. Okay, there is no way I put a tablespoon in my tuna mayo. So it would be really easy to be doubling up on that butter at least and doubling up on that mayonnaise, right? So both of these things could easily add an extra 100 to 200 calories on your day. I don't see any milk on your diary at all. I know that you're drinking teas and coffees. Are you counting the milk? So when you first started with me, you were drinking about 5 cups of tea a day. I know that some of those were decaf, but 5 cups of tea, depending on how milky you like it, that could be quite a lot of milk for the day. Think about when you're cooking. Are you tasting the food as you go? Are you snacking on things? Are you finishing the kids' leftovers? Bites, licks and tastes count. BLTs count. Are you weighing out things like pasta, rice? Because I'm seeing lots of cup measures in your food diary, which looks like guesstimates to me. So watch what's going on with the scales, because I talk about this in much more detail than what I am going to do on the podcast today. But this to me looks like a food tracking accuracy issue. So you are likely not in a calorie deficit because you're not accurately tracking what you're consuming. You're also a small woman at 5'1". So your steps and food choices are really important here. So again, when I'm looking at your food diary, I'm seeing, there was steak, new potatoes, and then some carrots. Okay, that is not volume eating. So food choices, when you are a small woman, food choices are important for anyone, but when you are a small woman, food choices are really important. And one of the best ways of keeping yourself full and satisfied is volume eating. So if you're eating a steak and some new potatoes, and then you're just having some carrots, some boiled carrots on the side, I want you to be having at least 3 portions of vegetables. So I want your plate to be half full of those vegetables, okay? Other things, you've got some snacks in that, again, like absolutely no problem with you snacking. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the last question as well. But some of your snacks, so you're eating like an Eat Natural bar, and you've picked the Eat Natural protein bar, they're not actually high protein. So you're spending about 240 calories on something you think is going to give you loads of protein, and it's not. And actually those 240 calories could be utilised so much better if you were picking more nutrient dense food rather than something that what makes those protein is the amount of nuts in them. And nuts are nutritious, but they are quite high calorie as well. So make sure you're volume eating, lots of protein, lean protein, lots of fruit and veg, and also get your steps in. So last week your average step was only 3k a day. The importance of steps for fat loss, whether you are a small woman or not, should not be underestimated. Okay, now loads of you in this group and loads of you listening regularly exercise, and that's brilliant. It is the number one act of self-care you can take for your body. Brilliant. I love that you're doing it. But if you are exercising because you think it is the best way for you to lose body fat, you are hugely mistaken. It's actually a really inefficient way for you to lose that body fat, because actually you push your energy needs up. You're making yourself hungrier, especially if you're relying on loads of cardio. What I would prefer you to do, I still want you to work out, but I want you to get your steps in. So for your metabolic health, okay, for your health, for the prevention of some cancers, type 2 diabetes, cardiorespiratory diseases, you should be walking and getting more steps and being more generally active, at least doing 8k steps a day. Okay, that will make you a healthier person, irrespective of weight gain or loss. But for your weight loss, when we think about movement, for your fat loss, your steps are going to help you to expend more energy than any formal exercise that you could be doing. So those steps are super, super important for you when you are a small woman, but they are so important for fat loss. And then the final thing I was going to say is, I noticed you ate out 3 times last week. And listen, live your best life, but there needs to be a certain level of acceptance here that as a small woman, eating out is more difficult. Finding a calorie appropriate meal when you are eating out is much more difficult. I think back to a few weeks ago when one of the girls was going out for brunch, child free, and was looking at a restaurant, and I didn't look at the calories and said, oh, what about the garden breakfast? And she said, have you seen, that's 1400 calories for a breakfast, right? That would have been nearly all of her calories for the whole day. It is harder to eat calorie appropriate meals when you eat out as a woman, and most certainly as a small woman. When you're getting, a main course that is 1400 calories, for most of you, that means you could have one other meal for the day if you wanted to stay in your calories. So I'm not telling you not to go out. What I'm saying is there may need to be some compromise on the things that you're choosing when you're out, particularly if you're going to be going out for dinner 3-4 times a week. You need to compromise. And because, if we think of the 80-20 rule, some of that compromise might need to be on how many treats you give yourself, how many snacks you give yourself on all of the other days. Okay. Good. Right, last one. I'm hungry all the time. Okay, again, I've taken a look at your food diary, and this is the problem that I can see. So your breakfast is regularly 240 calories. Your lunches and dinners are regularly 300 to 400 calories. So at the most, you are eating about 1,000 calories in main meals, and your top end of calories is 1,700. So some days you're eating at least 600 calories worth of snacks. And this is why you're hungry, because the snacks that you're eating are not snacks that are going to fill you up. So it looks like you are just grazing through the day. So here's what I want you to do. Try to make your meals bigger. Increase the protein sizes in your meals. Increase the fruit and veg in your meals. Make your meals at least 400 calories, okay? Because then by the time you get to the end of the day, and we've just counted breakfast, lunch and dinner, that's 1,200 calories at least. That's if you are hitting the minimum of 400 per meal. But let's say you did 5, that's 1,500 calories. And then you will be fuller, you'll be more satisfied, you won't need to snack, and you can have, a snack, 100, 200 calories, that is something you really enjoy, and you can sit down and eat that mindfully. But at the moment, you are spending over a third of your calories on snacks, and that's why you're hungry. Make your meals bigger. Okay, there was a lot of juicy stuff in that one. Thank you so much for all of your check-ins, everyone. If you want to know more about how you can join my awesome community of women, check the show notes. I will be back on Wednesday with a midweek episode. Have an awesome Monday. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.